Brokers Alliance and the National Insurance Clearinghouse present the Business Insurance Zone, a Bravo video event. Broadcasting in HD 1080p on Vimeo, YouTube, the Insurance Newsnet, Agent Navigator, BrokersAlliance.com, and on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and the Insurance Forum. And now your host, the whiz of the biz, Steve Savant. Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that spotlights insurance in your practice, keeps you up to speed on insurance news and products, features insurance strategies from top advisors. Get in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone.
Our email address is thebiz@brokersalliance.com, or you can call us at 1-800-290-7226, extension 147 for any quotes or questions you have on life insurance, annuities, disability, LTC, and group pension plans. And remember, I'm not a tax advisor or a legal advisor, so before moving forward with any of the planning strategies that we talk upon on this show, always check in with your CPA and attorney. And of course, if you're with a broker-dealer, always check in with your compliance officer before moving forward with any of our suggestions. Today, and we're going to do a lot of shows on this. Today's show, we're going to be talking about sales training, a lost art. And with me today is Tom Anderson, Director of Sales and Training for AG Life Companies. Welcome to our show.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be here.
Well, Tom, I got to tell you, this is a real truth, too. I mean, who does training? I remember back in the day, 30-something years ago, there were big units. Like if you came from Connecticut Life, that was a big one, right?
Yes.
Those guys did training.
Yes.
I mean, you were under the tutelage of veterans. Now we're sitting there like hardly anybody does this anymore. So I was really surprised, and I really like the fact that American General is going out of their way to go ahead and say, we need to reinvent this whole scene and train. You know, our generation, the boomers, we're going to be handing this off pretty soon. And my feeling is our next generation up didn't get the training you and I had.
They haven't.
Have you found that to be true?
That's very true. You know, I came from the career side, as I'm sure many of your viewers and listeners have. And as you pointed out, they gave us not only great product training and how the business works, but how to actually be in business, how to ask for referrals, how to prospect. And we found that those are some of the skills that are being lost today. So we found at AG that there was a need for this, and I was very happy to put together some training modules.
I used to think that you would hand you the yellow pages and the white pages and just say start dialing.
Dialing for dollars.
But I don't even know, do we even use yellow pages anymore? I mean, does anybody use the white pages? I don't know. It's all on the web, right?
Exactly.
Well, today we're going to talk about something that should be dear to everybody. If you're watching this show and you're saying, Steve, the number one issue for agents, and this is number one, nothing's close. It isn't knowledge, we give you all that. It isn't product, we have that as well. It isn't the comp, everybody's paying great. The issue is prospects. It really is. That is the cry of the agent's field force. We're going to title today, Sustaining the Prospecting Pipeline, because not only do I want to prime the pump, I want to keep it happening so it's already doing it. So, Tom, you've been in this a long time. You know how to play the game of generating prospecting, lists, people to talk to. Let's talk about that and say, how do you do it? How do we train guys to keep prospecting in the pipeline?
Well, first of all, I think you have to change the paradigm. If you remember the great film, Glengarry Glen Ross, I think a lot of us have seen that, one of the best films about sales. Alec Baldwin, in what a lot of folks think is one of his best roles, he's on the blackboard with his salespeople. He has ABC, always be closing. And that was what I call the old paradigm, transactional, make those sales. Very little concern or regard for the client as a person, as an entity, as a total financial entity. So we want to change that, and I think we have to change that. So the model today is always be prospecting, always be thinking about how can I find more people to talk to about insurance and financial services.
How do I, but everybody has that mantra, we need to all have it. I'm trying to think of tactical or strategic ways that we can actually start prospecting as part of our business plan. And actually, we're doing that as part of our strategic business plan, which I have not seen. And I've seen a lot of business plans in the last decade. It never includes this.
Yes, that's very true. And I'm hearing the same thing from a lot of folks we work with. Let me suggest we start off with, imagine you're coming into the business. Most of us come into the business with what we call friends and family, or a natural market is the term for that. So many of the career companies have a new agent, have someone coming into the business with their List 100 or Circle of 100 was a typical one. So the natural market are those folks who you know, who you're acquainted with, that will give you a favorable meeting. That's really the goal in the beginning, is to have enough people to speak with so you can tell them about what you do and what you can offer them. And we call that the natural market. And that's a great place to start because not only are they more open to meeting with you, but you can get business quicker. And coming into the business, that's one of the things you obviously want to do, is begin to get your production up as quickly as possible.
I've noticed even some of the surviving career shops that are still out there, whether it's Mass Mutual, Northwestern, New York Life, The Guardian, some of our traditional boilerplate career shops, they are hiring on the basis of your natural market.
Correct.
They're kind of getting at, well, this guy's probably going to come out of the chute with 150 actually decent clients.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
when I think about natural market, I think, how do I leverage my natural market to get to the next step? Because let's say I have my 100 relatives and friends, and that's my natural market. How do I get to the outskirts? I've noticed, like, and I hate to bring this up so early on in the show, but it's kind of like there's Facebook people that are my core constituents on my Facebook page, but then there's this outer boundary of new friends I have that are coming onto my Facebook that I don't really know, but they're relating because they like something I'm doing.
Yes.
So they want to follow it.
Yes.
So talk a little about how do I push out? I'm thinking about the ground zero being my natural market. How do I go to the next parameter? How do I go to the next boundary?
Well, let me suggest an intermediary boundary. We all have that natural market, those relatives, those acquaintances. However, there's also what we call a secondary natural market. These are the folks that we have relationships with, like, for instance, your spouse's hairdresser. Someone who knows your spouse or knows you because they provide a service to you. A lot of times they're also open to meeting with us and talking about what we do. To your point, though, the next step is going into what I would call that developed market, which would be the big unwashed. These are folks who don't know you. And how to reach those. And you mentioned the Facebook. The real key to it is having a value proposition. In other words, what is it that you do that adds value to a person? Why would they want to speak with you about financial services? Why you versus going online directly to carriers such as Matrix Direct, Select a Quote, those kinds of things. So my suggestion is to develop a very to the point value proposition, your own elevator speech, if you will, so that you can respond to those folks who
I'm thinking of value proposition as it relates to my specific distinction.
Correct.
What do I have to sell? What's my core competency in my character, my personality, or my skill set, my expertise? What is that, and how do I leverage that? I mean, because just as you said, there's thousands, like in just this state alone, I mean, there's thousands of registered investment advisors or financial advisors or certified financial advisors. We're all in this same area. We're all carrying the same mantra of, well, we do asset allocation, we manage your money, we advise you, we counsel you, we'll be your mentor through money issues. We all say that.
Yes.
But how do I cut myself out of the pack where a guy says, like you said, I want to talk to this guy, and my end game is the reason I'm talking about this on our show is because we're trying to create a pipeline of prospects and then maintain it.
Correct. There's two parts to building that value prop. The first is be able to answer the question, what do you do? So many people in our business say, I sell insurance, I sell financial products.
Well, that's a deal killer.
Exactly. Exactly. Because going back to the original idea of not being a transactional person, it's not so much about what you do, but what's in it for the client. Why would I want to do business with you? So for instance, if you stop and think, if you're a life insurance salesperson, what is the benefit of what we really do? What do we actually provide? It's peace of mind, protecting the family in the case of premature death, protecting against disability. So crafting a statement that tells others that that's what I do. For instance, I might say something like, I help my clients gain peace of mind, protect their families in the event of premature death or disability, and I help them plan for a successful retirement. Notice that there's no mention of product, there's no mention of a company, and that's the first step. The second step is to have an inspiring enough part of that where someone says, hey, Tom, that's really interesting. How do you do that? That's what I want to talk to you about, Steve. So by adding those two parts, what I do and how do I do it is compelling. And I might say something like this, I take the time to sit down and learn more about you and your financial situation before I offer or recommend anything at all.
Well, if those two things are the big premise, let's say I get that down, and those become my billboards, right? That's
correct.
My billboard. Okay, so I know how to talk about it, although I'm thinking, I'm on Twitter now, and I
Right.
have 140 characters, including punctuation and spaces in between. That's all I have. How could I say, what do I do, and how do I do it in 140 characters, including spaces and punctuation? I mean, that's digest.
That's the modern world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, here's an example. There's a firm in Connecticut, I'll never forget it, on their website. The title is The Retirement Doctor. Now, if you think about that for a minute, there's two real good thoughts embedded in there. What does a doctor do? Well, he takes the time to find out what is wrong with you, what are some of the issues before I can make a diagnosis. And what kind of a doctor am I? A retirement doctor. So I think that's an example of something you could really compress into 140 characters. I help you. I am your retirement specialist. See me for a free diagnosis. I'm just coming off the top of my head, but something
Yeah,
like
but
that.
I mean, you're using the physician's metaphor.
Correct.
And there are sports metaphors, restaurant metaphors. I mean, there's things that we get involved with every day. And these are good metaphors to play on. And I can't think of anybody in the U.S. today, if you used a metaphor like, I defeat estate taxes, income taxes, in every way possible under the legal code. That's what I do for a living. Done.
Just
Done.
like in that great movie with Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn, by George, he's got it.
Yes.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and if
My
I-
Fair Lady.
And I appreciate that because nobody has more blue collar upbringing than me. And if I'm getting it, everybody on this show should get
Sure,
it.
sure.
Well, how do we do? I always think about how do we do things like this. You know what I mean? We come back on the second segment. I want to know. All right, I got the mantra, I got the two ideas. I need to know how do I get that done because to me, that's the golden issue we're talking about. Is that right, Tom?
Absolutely.
Well, listen, coming up in our second segment, we're going to talk about prospecting in pipeline. Keep that pipeline happening. Remember, you can write us on our email address, thebiz@brokersalliance.com. You can call us 1-800-290-7226, extension 147, or don't ever forget to hop out because it's really good, to visit our website, www.brokersalliance.com. You're listening to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Steve Savant here. For years, I've heard that less than 2% of all term life insurance ends in a claim. That's not many, and clients had to die to receive the benefits. That's the old term insurance. Now start selling the new term. The term insurance that covers your client through a chronic illness, a catastrophic event, or a terminal diagnosis, and pays their monthly premium during extended periods of unemployment. What term life insurance can do all that? Western Reserve Alliance Advantage Term with living benefits. No other term insurance product bundles so many solutions to life's unexpected problems. And all in one policy. So for more information, call Brokers Alliance 1-800-290-7226. Stop selling the old term. Start selling the new.
Hello, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. I'm Steve Savant, your host, financial color commentator, and I must say, interviewer extraordinaire. In this segment of the biz, of course, we have Tom Anderson from AG Live Companies, and we've been talking about this show, prospecting, keeping prospects in your pipeline. And before we get into that, I want you to remember that you can watch this show and all our shows on the Vimeo, YouTube, the Insurance Newsnet, Agent Navigator, Brokers Alliance's on-demand section, and of course check us out on our Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and of course I blog on the insurance forum on the life section. You can always see me there. And remember again, of course, I'm not a tax or legal advisor, so before moving forward with any of the planning strategies or tactics we talk about on the show, seek counsel first, and if you're with a broker dealer, always touch your compliance officer to make sure they're okay with what we're saying on this air. And believe you me, sometimes it isn't okay, but we're okay with that. Well, Tom, we're talking about keeping prospects in the pipeline.
Right.
And that's everybody's dream. Whoever cracks the code wins on this because I need new people to talk to. When you're talking about cracking developed markets, right now I'm thinking like, well, why wouldn't I want to do a new one? But you're saying, no, we need to learn how to crack an existing market that's already there. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, what I mean by an existing market, and I think everyone would agree, This is that great marketplace of people who don't know us. That's what I mean by a developed market. These are business owners, high net worth individuals, professionals that we need in order to build our practice. So how do we get to them? They don't know us. Unless now in another segment we can talk about referrals, but in terms of getting in there in a prospecting manner, and this is where the systemization, as you pointed out, sustaining that pipeline is critical. So my suggestion is we start with a business plan. First of all, what do you feel as a producer, as an insurance professional, are your strengths? What is it you really like about our business that you feel you can bring to your prospects?
Now, Tom, you do this a lot. How many of us that you've interviewed and really helped mentor through a plan, how many people are in delusionary? You know, I mean, they think this is their image, this is their expertise, this is their forte, and it turns out to be far from the fruit is falling far from the tree.
Very often, and self-delusion can be a killer. One great way to prevent that is to ask your clients, if you have been in the business long enough where you do have some clients, ask them, what would they say about you? What would they say you've done for them? And that'll really give you a reality check as to what you really do versus how you perceive yourself to be. But I think what's critical is starting with that and then building a business plan as to how to crack that market. One way to do that is to use what we call SMART goals. Maybe some of you have heard this acronym. SMART stands for, first of all, strategic, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. In other words, you want to have a time frame around there. So in other words, if I say I want to get into the business owners market, which as we found is a very lucrative market today. A lot of small business owners just really don't know how this works.
Would you have to reconfigure your own personal business plan based on target marketing like that? Because if I'm going business, that's going to make a different plan. If I'm going to be doing domestic, just household, middle America, that's a different plan. Is that true?
Yes.
So
in my own personal experience, I found, as I'm sure many of us have had, an evolution in my practice. I started with what we called at that time the nighttime market, working with Mr. and Mrs. America, typically across the kitchen table type of sales. But then you want to evolve into the so-called daytime market, where I can have daytime appointments, meetings with business owners, for example, professionals, people in their offices. So yes, those would be two different business plans. But the key thing is to follow those SMART goals, to be sure it's realistic. And there's two other components. First of all, what is your goal? For instance, if you're working in a smaller community or a suburb where you want to build a presence, you want to build a kind of a reputation as an expert in your field. Newspaper articles, writing a blog, building your own website where you can drive, where traffic can be driven, be a great way to create awareness of who you are, who your firm is. But for most of us, we want leads. We want to generate leads right away. So when I say cracking the developed markets, there's several really key critical areas there. First of all, you've got to think about your budget. If you're going to buy leads, if you're going to use some of those services, create a web page, think about how much money you have to be able to do that. But probably the most important component, since we are commission-driven salespeople, is how much time can I allocate to this? To your point earlier about different business plans. It takes longer to crack that market. Again, people don't know you. There's an awful lot of competition. So how much time do I want to give myself in my busy day, in my busy overall plan? So typically what happens is you see a natural evolution. Unless someone comes in with that natural market in, let's say, business owners or professionals already, it's going to take some time to build some traction to get enough names and leads coming in to be able to truly generate that pipeline.
And to activate that prospect pipeline, I think you have to commit to a certain amount of your work week in actually working on your business instead of in it. So you have to get into a promotional, say, what am I promoting this week? And one of the inexpensive, there's people say, well, I can do social networking. That is one part. We're going to get to that in another show.
Yes.
But there's all kinds of ways to go ahead and introduce this, but you have to buy in up front, and I mean way up front, that there has to be quarantine time to work on your business. All I'm doing today is marketing, my mantra, I'm trying to identify how I'm going to promote this, what social events am I going to go to, and like you said, writing articles, blogs, all those things. That's what I'm doing every week. And I like your word, systematize. I grew up in a very Jesuit Catholic kind of upbringing, the mentality itself. There were certain ways to do things. I think some of the discipline we've lost. It's not just the whole idea of sales training. We've lost basic disciplinary skills. The hitters, the guys that are bringing in serious six-figure premium on a regular basis generally have skill sets all based on plans, all based on quarantined or dedicated times to do promotion of their business to get new prospects and keep prospects in the flow.
You're exactly right, and that's where I built many of the ideas that we're talking about today, is working with very successful producers. How did you do it? What were the key things that you did? Mm-hmm. I like sports analogies, as I'm sure you do. And for me, it was always football. If you think about the basic fundamentals of blocking and tackling, whether you're playing at a high school level or in the NFL, it's the same basic skills that one has to do. And I believe it's the same in our business, to your point. Having a systematized, quarantine, sets of activities that you do. And the key to it is, and I think the big producers will agree it also, it's being able to bring all that together, to coordinate all of those activities. So at the end of the day, as an old, he wasn't old at the time, but one of my former managers once said to me, Tom, there's two kinds of activity in our business: revenue producing activity and non-revenue producing activity. What do you want to be doing? What should you be doing the most?
And if I can really sell our agent base, our producers, on the issue of that I'm doing by promoting and learning how to advertise and play in the game to really crack my market, develop my market, I really can say, listen, promotion is part of that. It does bring home the bacon. It's not ancillary. It's not anecdotal. It actually will bring in money. Now, again, we have to figure out, is our read on ourselves delusionary? Or is it we have an accurate read? Number two, we got to see what's in the financial service. I heard a young man say to me the other day, I'm coming into financial services. I said, where? You know how big that is? I mean, are you going to sell commodities? You're going to sell hog futures, which is certainly no future for the hog. But I'm just saying, what are you selling? Are you going to be a fee-based planner? Are you going to be a DI specialist? Our market is so broad. So
that's the point.
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you going to funnel down and say that's what I'm doing? And we need mentors like yourself, Tom, to say, I kind of talked to you, I did my interview with you. I don't know if you're an analytic fee-based kind of an asset allocator. I've met so many guys that are in the wrong place at the wrong time. Their skill sets aren't there. I mean, it's hard to make a guy an accountant when he can't add. Just basic ideas.
Yes. And I think that's where that, as you mentioned earlier, don't delude yourself. What is it that you really feel you can bring to the marketplace? What is it you offer that can differentiate yourself from those thousands of people? Just here in the Phoenix area alone, I venture to guess how many financial advisors, fee-based planners, however
Thousands.
Exactly.
Thousands. And we're in a small state, Arizona. Think of what it's like on the East Coast.
Exactly. So it's really never more incumbent in my mind to really think about these things and truly build a plan around those key points.
Tom, you have in your script here, I was looking, it says a word about social media. Now, you guys aren't really looking at this. Everybody's talking about it. I hate to say this because it sounds like we're trumpeting our own horn here at Brokers Alliance, but we are doing it at the highest level in the financial community outside an actual carrier or mutual fund, manufacturer. We're playing in this league. We see the value. Talk a little bit about that and the value of promotion, advertising, getting your name out.
I want to share with everyone, Steve and I were talking off camera, and to me, this vignette answers that question to the key. We were talking about Twitter and how, I believe it was a spouse of an agent who has a Twitter account and mentioned in her Twitter account where she went for dinner.
Right.
And as Steve pointed out to me, so many of the leads that we can gather through the social media are indirect.
Indirect, right.
We as consumers are used to being hammered, whether it's for toothpaste, beer, or insurance products. We're hammered directly. But the indirect benefit
But I've noticed that the beer is the thing that hammers you, not the toothpaste. Just a thought.
He said that, folks, not me. In interest of full disclosure.
And by the way, if Budweiser wants to sponsor us, I'm up for that. Okay.
But no, it became crystal clear in my mind when you shared that story that the ability to indirectly network through things like Twitter and LinkedIn.
Well, think about that.
Powerful.
That story of Facebook, where the client we wrote that in her
Facebook.
name. We wrote in her name. It was 2 or 3 lines about a restaurant they went to, and he said, Mike and I went out with our clients to this restaurant. It was great. We had great Italian food, and she had a Facebook community of about 385, which I still say Facebook is an exclusively female equation. It's the estrogen zone, right? I mean, I don't think you find many guys out of Facebook. And she had 114 responses out of her 385 communities saying, what does your husband do?
Yes.
And out of that, she responded, he helps people with money and blah, blah, blah. Very indirect, soft sell. He got 14 appointments off his wife's Facebook account. See?
And I just want to emphasize, those of you, if you picked up on the word Steve used, just in that little vignette, what does your husband do? That's the compelling value
Back
of
to
that.
the first segment.
Exactly. What do you do? You want people to be able to ask that about you.
Okay, so we want to know what we do. We be able to say it in a Twitter format of about 140 characters, and I want to have something distinctive. What cuts me out of the pack? Why do I want to talk to you rather than somebody else? Because there's thousands of guys and gals out there licensed to do what we do. And the second thing you said is, how do I do that?
Correct.
I love that. What do I do? How do I do it? Now let's say we manage to that, and we have people back that will help us in the home. Right? I mean,
absolutely.
We have complete PowerPoints. If you want any information on this, just call us at 1-800-290-7226, extension 147, and say, I saw the show with Tom Anderson from American General. Please send me his PowerPoints. We'll be happy to distribute them. I think a lot of this is good planning. If you don't know where to start, this is an excellent place to start, Tom.
Yes, that's the whole thing. You have to know where you want to start.
And I think this is a good show. We're going to do a lot of shows with you, Tommy, because we really need to get out in front of the curve here, because it's a lost art. We kind of lost our way on this, I hate to say it. And we need to come back online and learn what it's like to get into sales training again. Well, I want to remind everyone, you can always watch all our episodes on The Biz at Vimeo, Insurance News Net, Agent Navigator, and of course our own website at www.brokersalliance.com. And remember, you can write me, thebiz@brokersalliance.com. I always love to hear from you. I appreciate it so much. I'm Steve Savant. You're listening to the Business Insurance Zone. That's the buzz on the biz for today. Get into the zone, the Business Insurance Zone.
This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse and Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. You can contact Brokers Alliance at brokersalliance.com or 1-800-290-7226, extension 147.